Wild West redemption. The cowboy who saved her, Jack Callahan, was not the kind of man who drew attention. In a town full of noise and clamor, he preferred the quiet of the open plains, the soft rustle of the wind through dry grass, and the distant cry of a hawk circling above. He had broad shoulders, a rugged face that told stories of hard years, and hands calloused from work with horses and rope. He rode a sturdy brown horse named Dust, a companion as quiet and dependable as he was. Jack had learned long ago that silence could speak louder than words, and he carried that lesson with him every day. Years ago, Jack had been a lawman, a man with a badge and a promise to protect his town. But one night, the town he swore to defend had been raided by a gang of outlaws. Buildings had burned, people had been hurt, and Jack had failed to stop them. That failure weighed on him like a stone in his chest. Since then, he had walked away from law, from towns, and from people. He had learned to live on the edge of civilization, alone, with only his horse and his memories. The townsfolk called him a loner, a drifter, a cowboy who would never settle down, and he did not mind. In his heart, he believed he did not deserve a quiet home or a friendly face. But the frontier did not remain calm for long, and danger had a way of finding even the most hidden souls. Just beyond the hills lay the Dawson Ranch, a sprawling stretch of land filled with fields, cattle, and a simple wooden house. The ranch had recently fallen into the hands of Emily Dawson, a young woman with determination in her eyes and a stubborn streak that matched Jack's own. Her father had died suddenly, leaving her with the responsibility of managing the ranch and keeping her family safe. She had faced many challenges before, but none like this. Bandits had begun to appear on the roads, stealing supplies, threatening neighbors, and leaving a shadow of fear over the area. Emily woke early each morning, long before the sun rose over the distant mountains. She checked the cattle, repaired broken fences, and made sure the horses were fed. Her small home was modest, but it carried the warmth of her family's love. She often worked side by side with her younger brother, Samuel, who looked up to her with wide eyes and trust that only a sibling could give. Life on the frontier was never easy, and Emily had learned that courage was not a choice, it was a necessity. Jack often watched from the hills above, though he did not intend to. There was something about the way the Dawson Ranch operated that reminded him of the town he had once protected, of responsibilities he had failed to uphold. He stayed hidden, observing Emily as she moved through the fields, her hands skilled at the work of the land, her face set with determination. There was no fear in her eyes, not even when she faced small dangers like a snake in the barn or a loose bull. Jack felt a strange tug at his heart, something he had not felt in years. It was not love at first sight. He did not believe in such things anymore. But it was curiosity, respect, and a faint hope that maybe, just maybe, life could be different. One afternoon, a cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. Jack squinted, his experienced eyes picking out the shapes of men riding fast, rough-looking, armed with guns and a mean intent. The bandits had come closer to the ranch than before. Emily noticed the disturbance, too. She whistled for her dogs, gathered her brother, and tried to prepare for what might come. Her heart raced, but her mind remained steady. She had faced hardships before, but nothing as sudden and dangerous as this. Jack hesitated only a moment. He could ride away, disappear into the hills, and leave the danger to someone else. But something inside him moved faster than thought. Dust's hooves kicked up the dry earth as Jack spurred him down the hill, moving with a speed and precision that only years of experience could give. By the time the bandits reached the ranch, Jack was there, standing tall on his horse, eyes sharp, hand ready on the reins. He did not shout, he did not call for help. He simply acted. A few quick maneuvers, a sharp command to the frightened horses, and the bandits found themselves confused and off balance. Jack's presence was unexpected, and the courage in his eyes was unmistakable. The men tried to push forward, but they were met with a force they had not anticipated. Jack was not a lawman anymore, but his instincts had not left him. He knew how to protect, how to outsmart, and how to make a stand without unnecessary violence. After a tense few moments, the bandits realized their effort was wasted. They turned and fled, cursing under their breath, leaving behind the quiet of the ranch and a strange sense of awe at the cowboy who had appeared from nowhere. Emily watched in astonishment. She had never seen anyone move like that, anyone so calm in the face of danger. Her heart still pounded, but it was mixed now with relief and curiosity. She wanted to speak to him, to thank him, but Jack was already moving back toward the hills, as if he had never been there. He did not linger and he did not seek recognition. That was the way he had lived for years, quiet, self-reliant, and distant. Days passed, and Jack continued to watch. He did not interact directly, but he kept an eye on the ranch, making sure the bandits did not return. Emily tried to ignore him, but she could not. There was something about the cowboy that drew attention, a mixture of strength and sorrow that made her wonder about the story he carried in his silence. She began leaving small gifts along the path where she thought he might pass, a can of food, a fresh loaf of bread, a kind note. She did not expect him to take them, but she hoped it would show that someone noticed, that someone cared. Jack found the gifts. At first, he ignored them, leaving them where they were. But over time, curiosity overcame his reluctance. He began to move closer, inspecting the gifts and reading the notes. Emily's handwriting was simple but thoughtful, full of words that carried respect and kindness. He did not respond, at least not in words, but he felt a warmth that had been absent from his life for years. The solitude he had treasured now felt different, not lonely, but open, a door to something he had thought impossible. As the weeks went by, Jack and Emily shared small encounters. Sometimes it was a nod across the fields, sometimes a brief conversation about the weather or the livestock. Jack was careful, measured, unwilling to reveal too much of himself. Emily was patient, persistent, but never pushy. She understood that some wounds ran deep, and that trust had to be earned, not demanded. Their bond grew slowly, built on respect, shared responsibility, and the unspoken acknowledgement of danger that lurked around every corner of the frontier. Life on the ranch was difficult, and Emily faced many challenges. Fences broke, storms damaged crops, and the constant threat of bandits never fully left. But Jack's presence, though quiet, made a difference. He helped when needed, repaired fences without asking, and guided Emily with advice drawn from years of experience. She began to rely on him, not just for protection, but for wisdom and counsel. Jack, in turn, found himself caring in ways he had not anticipated. He was no longer the lonely cowboy on the hills. He had a purpose, a connection, and a reason to face the world rather than flee from it. One evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon, Jack and Emily stood together on the hill overlooking the ranch. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, the wind cool against their faces. Emily looked at Jack, not with expectation but with gratitude. He met her gaze briefly, eyes reflecting the weight of his past and the faint hope of a new beginning. There were no words spoken, only the understanding that sometimes actions spoke louder than any speech. In that quiet moment, the first threads of trust and companionship were woven, threads that would grow stronger in the days to come. Jack returned to the hills that night, but he felt a subtle change within himself. The past was still there, a shadow he could not erase, but the present offered a chance for redemption. He had saved her, yes, but in doing so, he had also saved a part of himself, the part that still believed in courage, in kindness, and in the possibility that life could be better. And as he lay under the stars, listening to dust's soft breathing and the distant howl of a coyote, Jack allowed himself to hope. Hope that he could find a new purpose. Hope that he could face the dangers ahead. And hope that, perhaps, Emily Dawson would continue to remind him that even in a harsh, wild world, there were moments worth fighting for. The morning sun broke over the Dawson ranch, painting the fields in golden light. Emily Dawson moved quickly across the yard, her boots kicking up small clouds of dust as she checked on the cattle. The air smelled of hay, dry earth, and the faint tang of horses. Life on the ranch was never quiet for long, and Emily had learned to expect the unexpected. She glanced at the hills beyond her land, wondering if the lone cowboy she had seen before, Jack Callahan, would appear again. The memory of the day he saved her from the bandits stayed with her. Though she had not spoken to him much, a strange trust had formed, one that was unusual for a woman who had learned early that danger could appear at any moment. Emily's brother, Samuel, ran toward her, a small bundle of papers in his hands. He had been practicing writing letters to send to relatives in a town far away, hoping to bring news of the ranch. "Look, Emily," he shouted, excitement in his voice. "I wrote to Uncle Henry he will come visit soon." Emily smiled, ruffling his hair. "That's wonderful, Sam. Let's make sure it's safe to send. We can't have it getting lost on the road." As she spoke, a shadow passed over the yard. Dust swirled, and Emily instinctively moved closer to Samuel. A sudden rumble of hooves echoed from the trail that ran along the edge of the property. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She recognized that sound. Bandits. They were back. Jack Callahan appeared over the ridge as well, moving with the calm precision of a man who had faced danger too many times to fear it. His brown coat blended with the earth tones of the hills, and Dust's strong legs carried them steadily toward the approaching threat. Jack's hand hovered near the holster at his side, but he did not draw yet. He was patient, assessing the danger, studying the bandits' movements. The gang was smaller this time, but their intent was clear. They were reckless, aggressive, and desperate. One man yelled, waving a gun, while another swung a rope, clearly planning to steal livestock or intimidate Emily. She stood her ground, holding Samuel close. Her eyes met Jack's, and in that silent glance she found a strange comfort. He was here, and she knew he would act. The first bandit rode too close to a fence post, and Jack seized the opportunity. With a sharp command and a flick of his wrist, he guided Dust to intercept the man. The horse moved like lightning, and the bandit's horse stumbled, forcing him to lose control. Chaos erupted, but Jack remained calm, positioning himself between the intruders and the ranch. He did not shout, he did not panic. Every movement was measured, precise, and effective. Emily was amazed. She had seen Jack act before, but each encounter revealed a new level of skill and courage. She wanted to speak, to thank him, but words caught in her throat. Her instincts told her to stay quiet, to let him handle the danger. She noticed, too, that Jack's eyes occasionally flicked toward her and Samuel, as if silently promising protection. After a tense few minutes, the bandits realized they were no match for him. They turned their horses and fled down the trail, cursing and shouting, disappearing into the distance. Emily exhaled, relief washing over her in waves. Samuel clung to her, wide-eyed, clearly shaken but unharmed. Jack dismounted slowly, his movements deliberate. He approached Emily without any hint of arrogance, merely a quiet presence that seemed stronger than any words could convey. "Are you both all right?" he asked, his voice low but steady. "Yes," Emily replied, brushing dust from her coat. "Thanks to you." I don't know what we would have done without you." Jack nodded but did not linger. "You should prepare better," he said simply, gesturing toward the fences and gates. "Bandits will keep testing you if they think you're weak." Emily noticed a strange mixture in his gaze, concern, caution, and something deeper, something unspoken. She wanted to ask him more, but the moment passed. He mounted Dust and rode back toward the hills, leaving Emily and Samuel to catch their breath. That afternoon, Emily worked to repair the fences that had been damaged during the brief attack. She was methodical, tying ropes and reinforcing posts, but her mind kept returning to Jack. There was something about him she could not explain. Perhaps it was the way he moved, so confident and deliberate, or the quiet power that radiated from him. She had met men before, but none like him. Days turned into weeks, and Jack continued to observe the ranch from a distance. He never forced himself into Emily's life, but he was always there when danger approached. Emily began to notice small things: a repaired fence she hadn't fixed herself, a stray cow guided back into the pen, or the faint impression of horse tracks that led toward the hills. She realized that Jack was quietly helping, ensuring the ranch remained safe without drawing attention. Emily decided to take a small risk. One morning, she left a basket of food and a note near the base of the ridge where Jack usually appeared. She did not expect him to take it, but it was her way of reaching out, a silent thank you and a gesture of trust. Jack found the basket later that day. He examined it carefully, reading the note. It was simple, written in Emily's clear handwriting. "Thank you. I hope this helps in some small way." Jack did not respond, but he felt a warmth in his chest that he had not felt in years. He left the basket where it was, but he returned to it later, adding a small piece of jerky for Samuel and leaving it behind as a quiet gesture. Their bond grew slowly, built on these small, silent exchanges. Emily would work in the fields, knowing Jack watched from the hills, and she no longer felt completely alone. She spoke occasionally to him when he drew near, simple words about the weather, the cattle, or the chores. Jack answered with the same simplicity, never revealing too much of himself. But in those moments, trust began to grow, like the first shoots of grass after a long winter. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned shades of pink and orange, Emily noticed Jack riding closer than usual. He stopped near the barn, nodding at her. "You should rest," he said quietly. "You've been working too hard." "I can't stop," Emily replied. "There's too much to do, and we need to be ready if the bandits come back." Jack's eyes softened. "I'll keep watch. You don't have to do it alone." That simple promise meant more to Emily than she could express. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of security. Jack was not just a mysterious cowboy on the hills. He was a protector, a guide, and perhaps something more. She did not rush to define it, but she recognized the change it brought. As the days passed, Emily and Jack shared more moments. They would walk near the fields, talking about simple things: the weather, the condition of the land, the habits of the horses. Jack rarely spoke of his past, and Emily never pressed. She sensed that he carried burdens he could not share, and she respected that. Their companionship was quiet, built on shared work, mutual respect, and the unspoken understanding of the dangers around them. One afternoon, a new threat emerged. A group of bandits approached the ranch, this time more organized and determined. Emily and Samuel were tending the cattle when she noticed the dust rising in the distance. Her heart raced, but she felt a calm knowing that Jack would arrive. Sure enough, Jack appeared, riding dust with the confidence and precision that had saved them before. He assessed the situation, noting the bandits' numbers and weapons. Emily stayed close to Samuel, her hands steady on his shoulders, ready to guide him to safety if needed. The bandits came closer, shouting and swinging ropes. Jack moved quickly, positioning himself between them and the ranch. He used clever tactics to confuse and separate them, his experience as a lawman guiding every decision. Emily watched, all mixing with gratitude and fear, as Jack moved with quiet power, defending the land and her family without hesitation. After a tense confrontation, the bandits realized they were outmatched. They turned and fled, leaving Emily, Samuel, and the ranch unharmed. Jack dismounted slowly, his eyes scanning the area to ensure no one was left behind. Emily approached him, words finally coming easily. "Thank you, Jack. You saved us again. I don't know how to repay you." Jack shook his head. "No need for repayment, just keep the ranch safe." "That's enough." That evening, Emily prepared a small dinner and left it near the ridge, hoping Jack would accept it. This time he did, taking the food and leaving behind a small piece of jerky for Samuel. Their bond continued to strengthen, not through words, but through actions, trust, and quiet companionship. Jack had returned to the hills, but he no longer felt entirely alone. Emily's presence, her courage, and her trust had begun to chip away at the walls he had built around himself. He was still the rugged, quiet cowboy, but he had found a reason to stay, to protect, and to hope. And Emily, in turn, had found a protector she could rely on, a friend she could trust, and a man who, despite his past, showed her that courage and kindness could still exist in the wild, unpredictable world of the frontier. The morning was unusually quiet on the Dawson Ranch. The wind whispered through the dry grass, carrying a faint scent of the distant hills. Emily Dawson moved through the fields with a quiet urgency, checking fences and making sure the cattle were safe. But there was tension in the air, a sense that trouble was coming. The past few weeks had been difficult, but the bandits' attacks had been sporadic. Emily had hoped that the danger was fading. She was wrong. That afternoon, while repairing a fence near the northern pasture, Emily noticed tracks in the dirt, fresh tracks. Multiple horses moving fast, her stomach tightened. The bandits were back, and this time they were closer than ever. She ran toward the house, calling for Samuel, who was tending the chickens near the barn. "Sam, get inside quickly." Samuel obeyed without hesitation, his small hands gripping hers as they hurried into the safety of the house. Emily's eyes scanned the horizon. Dust rose in clouds, and figures appeared, rough, armed, determined. They were organized, moving as a group with a clear purpose. Emily felt her heart pound in her chest, but she forced herself to think. Panic would not save them. Only courage, strategy, and help could. From the hills, Jack Callahan watched silently. He had anticipated something like this. Over the weeks, he had noticed the bandits' movements, their patterns, and their increasing boldness. Jack knew their faces, recognized their horses, and understood their tactics. He saw the leader of the group, a man named Briggs, who had caused trouble in several nearby towns. Jack's jaw tightened. This man was dangerous, clever, and ruthless, but Jack had faced dangerous men before. He had survived. He had learned. Jack rode down toward the ranch, moving with speed and precision. He positioned himself between the bandits and the ranch, his eyes scanning for weaknesses. Emily watched from the house, both fearful and hopeful. She had grown to trust Jack, but she also knew that no one could face a group like this without risk. She whispered a prayer for her brother, for her home, and for the cowboy who had become their protector. The bandits reached the fence line, shouting and swinging their weapons. Briggs stepped forward, confident, unaware of the strategy Jack had prepared. Jack did not act immediately. He waited, studying their movements, letting them make the first mistakes. Then with swift action, he disrupted their formation, guiding dust in sharp turns, cutting off the bandits' advance. Horses stumbled, riders fell, and the organized chaos shifted in Jack's favor. Emily realized the danger was greater than she had imagined. One of the bandits broke away, moving toward the barn where Samuel hid. She gasped, running toward the barn, but Jack anticipated the move. He intercepted the man with a swift maneuver, his movements precise and calm. The bandit's horse stumbled, throwing him to the ground. Jack's presence was both a shield and a warning. The confrontation escalated. More bandits advanced, but Jack's experience gave him the upper hand. He used the terrain, the fences, and his horse to control the situation. Each movement was calculated. Emily watched, amazed by his skill, but also aware that the battle was far from over. She needed to stay vigilant, protect Samuel, and support Jack in any way she could. As the fight continued, Jack's past came to light. One of the bandits recognized him, a man who had been involved in the raid on Jack's former town years ago. "It's Callahan," he shouted. "The lawman who couldn't save anyone?" The words stung, cutting deeper than any physical wound. Jack's eyes darkened, memories of failure and loss flashing through his mind, but he did not falter. He had learned from the past. He had changed. He was no longer the man who failed once. Emily noticed the shift in Jack. His movements became sharper, more determined. He was fighting not just to protect the ranch, but to reclaim a part of himself that had been lost for years. She felt a surge of admiration and concern. This man carried burdens she could barely understand, yet he fought with courage and honor. The situation became critical when Samuel, curious and brave in his own way, stepped outside the barn, unaware of a bandit nearby. Emily's heart froze. Before she could react, Jack was there, guiding the boy back inside with swift action. The bandit hesitated, then fled, realizing he was outmatched. Emily clung to Samuel, grateful but shaken. She realized the danger was not abstract. It was real, personal, and immediate. Jack called the remaining bandits together, forcing them into a vulnerable position. He did not seek unnecessary violence, but he was firm and commanding. "Leave now," he said, voice low but steady. "Return again and you will face consequences you cannot handle." Briggs hesitated, weighing his options, but Jack's presence, reputation, and strategy were enough. The bandits turned and fled, disappearing over the hills with curses and threats. Silence returned to the ranch. Emily and Samuel emerged from the house, hearts still racing, lungs still catching in the aftermath. Emily looked at Jack, seeing the intensity in his eyes, the weariness on his face. She wanted to thank him, to say more than words could express, but the moment was heavy with the memory of danger. Jack dismounted slowly, walking toward Emily. "Are you both all right?" he asked. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of exhaustion. "Yes," Emily replied, voice trembling slightly. "Thanks to you, I don't know what we would have done without you." Jack nodded, eyes scanning the horizon one last time. "It's not safe yet. Keep watch and make sure Samuel stays inside. Danger doesn't always leave quietly." Emily understood. This was not just a one-time event. The bandits were persistent, clever, and ruthless. She had to be prepared. But for the first time, she felt a measure of confidence. Jack was there, and his presence was a shield as well as a guide. Over the following days, Emily worked to reinforce the ranch, repair fences, and secure the livestock. Jack continued to watch from the hills, appearing when danger approached, his actions quiet but effective. Emily left small notes and provisions for him, gestures of trust and gratitude that he accepted silently. Their bond deepened, built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and unspoken understanding. One afternoon, a rider approached the ranch, this time not with ill intent but with news. It was a local merchant who had seen the bandits moving toward another town. Emily realized that the danger extended beyond her own land. The bandits were part of a larger threat, a gang that had terrorized towns and ranches across the region. She shared this information with Jack, who listened carefully, eyes narrowing as he considered their next move. Jack knew that he could not simply defend the ranch in isolation. He needed a plan, one that would protect Emily, Samuel, and the town, and confront the bandits decisively. He began to strategize, using his knowledge of the terrain, the bandits' patterns, and his own skills. Emily assisted as best she could, learning from him, observing, and preparing. She realized that courage was not just fighting, it was planning, anticipating, and acting with intelligence. Tension built as the bandits' threats became more frequent. Emily felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders, but she also felt a growing strength within herself. Jack's presence, guidance, and quiet confidence had taught her that even in the harshest circumstances, courage and careful thinking could prevail. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Jack and Emily sat together near the barn. Samuel was asleep inside, exhausted from the day's events. Emily looked at Jack, noticing the lines on his face, the shadows in his eyes, and the faint tremor in his hands from the stress of constant vigilance. "Jack," she said softly, "you've done so much for us, I don't know how to ever repay you." Jack shook his head. "No repayment needed," he said. "I've carried my past long enough. Protecting you, it helps me too. It gives me a reason to face each day." Emily realized the depth of his words. Jack was not just a protector. He was a man seeking redemption, healing, and purpose. In helping them, he was also saving a part of himself that had been lost. The following days were filled with preparation. Jack and Emily worked together, reinforcing the ranch, training Samuel in safety measures, and anticipating the bandits' moves. Their bond grew stronger, built not only on trust, but also on shared determination and courage. Emily found herself learning from Jack's experience, understanding that strength came from both heart and mind. Then came the day when the bandits escalated their attacks further, targeting not just the ranch but the surrounding town. The threat was personal now, immediate, and unavoidable. Emily and Jack knew that they could no longer simply defend, they had to act. Jack's past as a lawman, his knowledge of the bandits, and his skills as a cowboy would be tested like never before. And Emily, brave and determined, would stand with him, facing danger and uncertainty with courage born of necessity and hope. The sun rose slowly over the Dawson Ranch, painting the hills with soft light. Emily Dawson moved quietly through the fields, checking the fences and making sure the cattle were secure. Her heart was heavy with worry. Over the past weeks, the bandits' attacks had grown more aggressive, bolder, and more organized. Emily knew the danger would not leave on its own. This time, the threat was personal. Her family, her home, and her future were all at risk. She had prepared as best she could, but she also knew she needed help, and that help had a name: Jack Callahan. Jack had been watching from the hills since dawn, dust pawed at the dry earth, his ears alert to every sound, every movement. Jack's mind was focused, his plans clear. He knew the bandits' habits, their strengths, and their weaknesses. He had faced dangerous men before, but this would test not only his skill but his courage, strategy, and resolve. This time, there would be no chance for hesitation. The safety of Emily, Samuel, and the ranch depended on him. Emily approached Jack cautiously, her eyes steady, even as worry tugged at her chest. "Jack," she said softly, "they're coming, I can feel it, we need a plan." Jack nodded. "I've thought about it. We can't just defend, we have to take the initiative. We need to use the land to our advantage, control their movement, and cut them off before they get too close." Together, they walked the perimeter of the ranch, studying the terrain. Jack pointed out places where the bandits could be trapped or delayed, where fences and barns could provide cover, and how the open plains could be used to channel the attackers. Emily absorbed every word, learning to think like him, to anticipate danger before it arrived. For the first time, she felt not just fear but hope, a feeling she had not known in weeks. The first dust clouds appeared in the distance, signaling the approach of the bandits. Emily's heart pounded, and Samuel hid behind the house, clutching her skirt. Jack gave her a steadying nod. "Stay calm, trust the plan." The bandits rode closer, shouting, confident in their numbers. They had grown bold over time, but they had underestimated the resolve of the Dawson Ranch and the skill of the cowboy watching from the hills. Jack spurred dust forward, moving with a speed and precision that left the attackers confused. He guided the bandits toward a narrow passage between two hills, forcing them into a trap he had carefully prepared. Emily watched, amazed by Jack's strategy. His movements were deliberate, each decision carefully calculated. He used the fences, the terrain, and the bandits' own aggression against them. Horses stumbled, riders struggled to regain control, and chaos erupted among the attackers. Jack's presence was a wall, a shield, and a force they could not ignore. Then came the critical moment. One of the bandits, more reckless than the rest, spotted Samuel hiding near the barn and lunged forward. Emily screamed, heart pounding in terror. Jack reacted instantly. He intercepted the man, his movements sharp, precise, and decisive. The bandit was thrown from his horse, dazed and defeated. Emily rushed to Samuel, embracing him tightly, relief washing over her in waves. But the battle was not over. Briggs, the leader of the gang, rode forward, guns drawn, his expression hard and determined. He had recognized Jack before and knew the cowboy's reputation. He sought revenge, and he would not retreat without a fight. Jack met his gaze, eyes calm but resolute. There was no hesitation. He had faced this before in different forms with different stakes, but this was personal now. The two men faced each other across the open land, the tension almost tangible. Briggs moved first, swinging his gun, but Jack was ready. Using Dust's agility and his own quick reflexes, he dodged and countered, forcing Briggs off balance. The two circled each other, each looking for an advantage, each aware that the outcome would determine more than just victory. It would determine safety, justice, and survival. Emily watched from the safety of the barn, her heart in her throat. She saw the skill, courage, and determination in Jack's movements. She realized fully that he was not just protecting her family. He was facing his own past, confronting the failures and regrets that had haunted him for years. Each move, each decision, each act of courage was part of a larger redemption, not just for him, but for the trust and hope he had inspired. The fight reached its climax as Jack used his surroundings to his advantage. He guided Briggs into a narrow canyon where escape was limited. The terrain worked against the bandit leader, forcing him to confront Jack on Jack's terms. With calm authority, Jack disarmed Briggs, using skill and strategy rather than brute force. The bandit realized he was defeated, and the remaining gang members, seeing their leader subdued, scattered into the distance, disappearing over the hills. Silence fell over the ranch. Dust pawed the earth, ears flicking, alert to any remaining threats. Emily ran toward Jack, Samuel close behind her, relief flooding through her. She saw the exhaustion on Jack's face, the tension in his shoulders, and yet in his eyes a quiet triumph and peace. "Jack," Emily said, voice trembling, "you did it. You saved us. You saved Samuel." Jack nodded, breathing heavily. "It's done. They won't bother this ranch again, not for a long time. You're safe." Emily embraced him, a gesture of gratitude and recognition for the man who had fought not just for survival, but for justice, courage, and hope. Jack, who had long lived with regret and solitude, allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of the past lift slightly, replaced by the knowledge that he had made a difference, that he had chosen to act when it mattered most. The following days were filled with recovery, reflection, and rebuilding. Emily worked to repair damaged fences, feed the cattle, and ensure the ranch was stronger than before. Jack assisted, quietly helping, offering advice, and guiding her with the knowledge he had gained through years of hardship. Their bond grew deeper, built on shared struggle, mutual respect, and trust that had been tested by fire. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky with brilliant hues of orange and pink, Jack and Emily stood together on the porch of the ranch house. Samuel played nearby, laughing for the first time in weeks, free from fear. Emily looked at Jack, noticing the lines on his face softened by relief, the strength in his posture, and the warmth in his eyes that had returned after so many years of hardship. "You've given us more than protection," Emily said softly. "You've given us hope. And you've given yourself a chance to heal." Jack looked at her, the weight of his past still present but no longer paralyzing. "I've learned that running doesn't fix anything," he replied. "Facing danger, protecting those who can't protect themselves, it gives purpose. And maybe, just maybe, it allows a second chance." Emily nodded, understanding fully. The ranch was safe, her family was intact, and the man who had once been a wandering, haunted cowboy had found redemption through courage, honor, and connection. They had faced danger together, endured fear, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more hopeful. As the stars appeared in the sky, Jack and Emily walked to the edge of the fields, looking out over the land they had fought to protect. Dust grazed nearby, calm and steady, a symbol of resilience and loyalty. Emily reached for Jack's hand, a simple gesture that carried gratitude, trust, and a hint of something deeper. Jack did not hesitate. He took her hand, feeling the connection, the bond that had grown through trials, fear, and courage. The frontier was still wild, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but for the first time, Jack felt that he had a place, a purpose, and a reason to face each new day. Emily had found not just protection, but a partner, someone who had earned her trust and admiration. Together, they had faced danger, survived it, and built a future rooted in hope, courage, and shared strength. And so, the Dawson Ranch thrived. Cattle grazed peacefully, fences stood firm, and the house was filled with laughter and warmth. Jack Callahan, the cowboy who had once walked alone with the weight of regret, had found redemption not just through action, but through the quiet, steady courage of protecting others. Emily Dawson, brave and determined, had found a protector and friend who would stand with her, facing the uncertainties of life on the frontier with unwavering resolve. The sun set slowly, casting long shadows across the fields. Jack and Emily sat together, watching the colors fade from the sky. The past was still there, a shadow they could not erase entirely, but it no longer controlled them. Together they had faced the wild, the danger, and the unknown, and they had emerged stronger. The cowboy who saved her had found his own salvation, and in the quiet of the western plains, hope had returned to the Dawson Ranch.